work. That should work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
It's
that
going.
should work. Okay, ready. I'll start. Hello, yes, my name is Mr. Foster, your host Foster. I work for Beacon Community Impact, and this is
Hello, everyone. I'm Mr. Matt. We're both community health coordinators with Beacon Community Impact. And so, what our job is day in, day out is to work with kids, work with community members, and teach them different ways to live healthier and happier lives. So, what we want to talk with you today is part of our digital citizenship curriculum. And so, our lesson today centers on my media use, a personal challenge. And so, what we want you to do today is think about how much media are we using? Is it meaningful? Is it the best use of our time? Because we know that we spend increasingly a lot more time online, especially when you think about it, kids are doing e-learning, they're doing virtual learning, and then maybe they're going home spending more time on their iPad, their iPhone,
mm-hmm.
etc. And so we are going to challenge you to think about, is this the best use of my time? And we want to talk about what does it mean to have balance in our lives of different activities. So now what we're going to do, Coach is going to talk to you a little bit about what is balance? What does that mean?
Right. We're going to talk about balance and with us living in a digital world. This is more important than ever now, right? Also, this presentation is brought to you by Common Sense with us as a beacon as well. But we're going to talk about balance, right? Because we all do something digitally, right? I mean, it's pretty much required in the world that we live in, right? But the thing of it is that I don't think we sit down and look at how much time we really spend on different things, right?
Mm-hmm.
And with you guys being middle school and elementary students, you guys are really affected with this. Why? Because you have to use your computer to do your schoolwork. You might have papers. You like to watch things online, so you're connected all the way, right? Also, video games, right? Who all in here probably plays games, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if I said raise your hands, usually in the classroom, most all kids say it, right?
Right.
Whether it's Fortnite, whether it's playing a game on their phone, maybe Subway Surfers, maybe you don't play that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's watching TV or Netflix. But I don't think you guys understand and really sit down and look at how much time
Mm-hmm.
we spend on these
Something I
devices.
would add, Coach, is also think about all the group chats that you have with your friends or maybe with family members. That can also count as media use because you're using your phone to communicate with others. So, not just different applications
That's
or
true.
different games, but also just using your phone to communicate with people digitally. And so, we have some images right here just to kind of think about what does it mean to overuse media, right? So, Coach, you want to talk a little bit about this?
Yeah, as you can see, someone's falling into water on their phone. Well, what happens is we get so connected, we get so into those our devices to where we don't look. And I will say, this happened to me before. I've actually was when I was walking down the street and I tripped over a couple of things because I was into my phone.
Mm-hmm. Right. And so I think that's a really good point that you bring up, Coach. This isn't just something that young people, teens, they have to be mindful of. Adults can be overusers of devices too. A lot of people spend a lot of time on Facebook,
Yeah,
right? They'll
yeah.
spend hours on end. And maybe it's not the best use of their time. I mean, everyone's time is different, so what their priorities are different. You might have something here where you're spending so much time gaming, it might stress you out,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So that's my son. I have a son that's in the sixth grade, and I have done my like go to bed. I hear him yelling and screaming. I say, "It's enough, right? You were happy 10 minutes ago. Now you're mad because you lost. I don't want to hear it. Go to bed."
Mm-hmm. Or you might be spending hours on end watching Netflix or Hulu, Disney Plus, right? And so what we're going to do today is examine, is using too much media, is that a bad thing? Or does that mean that we shouldn't use media at all? And so our essential question for you is, as you're getting older, what is your strategy for finding media balance? So most of us are using a lot of digital media and it's unavoidable. Like just what it is like in our workplace, in our schools, you have to have a balance between your online and offline time, and it's very important. But media balance looks different for everyone differently, right? So what Coach is doing and what he views as a balance is going to be different from what Mr. Matt is doing versus what you all would be doing. So today we're going to work on creating a personalized plan for our healthy media use. So now let's talk about our learning objectives. So what we want you to be able to do today, you're going to make an inventory of your media choices and think about how those choices make you feel. Because the first thing you need to do is think about what am I spending my time doing, and is it a good thing? Is it helping me lead a better life? Is it making me happy? Number two, you're going to think about personal strategies for balancing your media use. So maybe after contemplating about what you're doing online, you're thinking, oh, maybe I need to tone it down a little bit, spend a little less time, come up with strategies for balancing media use. So trying to find other activities that make you happy that aren't online. And then lastly, creating a personal guideline to promote media balance. So now Coach is going to talk to you a little bit about our vocab. So
Right.
today, Coach, go ahead.
Yes. So, like Mr. Matt said, inventory, right? That's a vocabulary. Our key vocabulary word is inventory. And if you guys don't know what the word inventory means, what it means is a complete list of items or actions, right? A complete list of items or actions. So, people want to enjoy the benefits of media without the negative effects, right? People don't think there's negative effects at all. But media can be entertaining, but too much media can interfere with other activities such as homework, family time, right? Maybe you don't want to be around your family anymore because you're always on the game, sports, right? It is a big, there's a study that shows that kids aren't active as much as they used to be, right? They don't play outside as much. They don't play sports as much. Why? Because they're tuned into these games. They feel like they need to be on these games, these electronic devices, whether it's a game or TikTok or Facebook or whatever. Hobbies, sleep, and other interests. Media can connect people, but sometimes media isolates some people or creates conflict between other people, right? Sometimes you may get in a fight with someone just because of a post. It happens all the time, and I see it happen, and it's not okay. It's not good, right? That's why people need to understand there are negatives as
Mm-hmm.
well.
And so when you're thinking about your media use in relation to your other activities, right? So think about how much time you're spending online, whether that's on Instagram or Snapchat or TikTok or messaging your friends. Think about how much of that time is spent, how much other time, what are you doing outside of those activities? Are you being active at school? Are you staying up to date on your schoolwork? Are you spending time with your family, right? And so a lot of us might feel like we're spending increasingly more time online and then neglecting or not spending as much time on the other important things in our lives, because we do need to have that balance. And so having too much of any of those activities would be unhealthy. So it's important for you to think about what that balance looks like. And so when we think about an inventory, right? So you think about maybe you have a backpack that you would take to school, and you might have different contents in that backpack, right? So you can't look at it the way, like the same way you look at things in your backpack, because you're looking at your activities as what amount of time that you're spending, right? So it can be difficult to remember exactly how much time you spend doing things, and the way that people use their time may change. So an inventory of activities, it's an ongoing challenge, because like we have different seasons in our lives. So I know in the winter I'm spending more time inside, and so I might be spending more time doing digital activities versus in the summer when I want to be outside. And so you have to think of it in kind of a roundabout way. What does it mean to take an inventory of your activities?
Right. And at the end of the day, that's why we talk about that balance. Having that balance, because I'm big on balance because with this digital media, because I'm a coach. And that's what I do for a living. That's what I do outside of this. And I'm always around the youth, and child obesity is really, really high. And I feel like, without having that balance with digital media and actually doing activities where you're physically moving around, it's really, really big.
That's a good point, Coach. Yeah, when we're sitting inside on our phones, we're not really getting active. So that is another negative effect of digital media, that might not be getting outside. Might not be getting enough activity physically. All right, so let's think about what a healthy media plan is. And so there's kind of three components I think about. So these are questions that I pose to you. So as I read them out to you guys, I want you to think about what your responses to these questions would be. So first are some questions for what, right? So what is it that you're spending your time online doing? So what are the media? So media is just anything online. So that could be an application like Instagram or TikTok. It could be Netflix. It could be the games that you're playing. It could be any of those things. What are you consuming? Or it also talks about creating. So maybe you make videos, maybe you make posts, right? So that's a good thing, right? That you're contributing. But a lot of times we're just consuming and seeing what other people are posting online. For example, are you watching a movie, searching for videos on YouTube, and then what you're playing online games, and then what devices are you using to consume or create the media? So I think about myself. I spend a lot of time on Instagram. Sometimes I spend a lot of time on TikTok or Snapchat, and I'm using my phone mostly. And so it's very hard for me to put the phone down because usually we keep our phones with us at all times just in case of emergency or if we need to call someone. So I put myself in a situation where it's very easy to spend time doing these digital activities.
And,
So
and
what do you want to say, Coach?
I think a lot too with the elementary and middle school students that they need their phone. They feel like they can't survive without
Yeah,
them,
I know some
right?
kids, they'll get anxious if they don't have it with them because it's just so, they're so used to it, they don't know what life is like without that.
Right.
And I think what's really interesting about young people is that's their life that they've grown up with. Older people like Coach and I, we didn't have phones when we were younger. So sometimes it's hard for us to relate. But I know, Coach, you have some kids and that's kind of the world they were growing up in. Is that correct, Coach?
Yes, definitely. Phones, iPads, Nintendo Switch, not the Switch,
The
but
Switch and the Wii.
the game one, the one.
Oh, the DS.
DS, DS,
Mm-hmm.
yes, the DS.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it's very hard because I know, like back in the day, people would just have a computer and they would sit on the desk at home, and you could sit there all day. But if you went out, you wouldn't be able to be using the internet. But now the internet can come with us anywhere we go if we have a smartphone. So that's something a unique challenge for today, right? So when are you consuming or creating media? So is it in the morning, right when you wake up? Is it right before you go to bed? Is it during a passing period? What days of the week are you doing it? What time of day? What else is happening at the time? Are you doing it during dinner while your family's trying to talk to you? Are you doing it right after waking up, like I mentioned? So I think about when I do it. So I try to be good about it, but sometimes when I wake up, sometimes I grab right for that phone and I say, oh, what happened online? Let's see, was there any drama that happened overnight? Or sometimes I'll do it when I go to sleep. Like sometimes I'll turn a YouTube video on before I go to bed because it relaxes me. So I do think that reiterates the point that digital balance is something that we have to worry about in all stages of our lives. And then the last question asks, how much are you consuming, right? How long did you spend consuming? How often do you consume? So I read a report from Common Sense Education, which created this curriculum we're presenting. They were saying on average, teens are spending about 9 hours on their phones. So I know there is a feature on the iPhone. It actually tells you your screen time. And so if you think about it, kids are spending most of the time with school online. So that's up to like 8 hours. And then they're also spending 9 hours on their phone. So that's like half of their waking hours just on their phone, right? And so that's up to you to decide whether you think that's something that should be changed. But I know, in my opinion, that seems like it's too much. I feel like people are missing out on the real things in life because we know social media, especially certain applications like Instagram or TikTok, people are giving off this fake image that they think that their lives are perfect. And sometimes it can negatively affect our mental health. So, Coach, let's talk about some of the effects of social media or digital media in general.
Right. So there's positives and negatives, right? Just like anything in life. And we're going to talk about some positive effects, right, of digital media. So, some positive effects could be that you can get connected, right? You can connect with people, right? So maybe that you have a parent or you have a brother or you have a sister or a family member that lives further away, right? And you can't see them. You just can't afford to go out, get on a plane and see them every day because they live far away. Maybe you can FaceTime them, right? So if you have an iPhone or you have some type of electronic device to where they have a camera, you guys can connect with each other and see each other and talk and communicate that way, right? And make them feel smart, right? So when you're on the using those electronic devices, they learn things that are important in life, right? So you can find things.
Right, there's lots of things you can learn. I know I spend a lot of time on TikTok. A lot of people think TikTok is just like dance videos, but there's really interesting, like they'll have cooking videos, they'll have really like really educational content out there. So it's not just like fluff, it's not worthless, right? And so also you feel like you're in the know. I don't know if any of you are on Twitter. I think that's more of an older person thing, but you learn a lot about current events, right?
Yes, yes.
So,
Especially like on Facebook. So I
mm-hmm.
know all the time that there's stuff that pops up all the time. Like, oh, you know what? Hey, I didn't know
Oh, I
about
didn't know
this.
that was happening in town, right?
Right. So I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
hey, I'm interested. It'll pop up later. Boom. I'm gonna go there.
Right. And I always like when I find something out, I'll send it to my friends and I'll be like, "Ah, I found it out first. I'm very connected, right?" And then,
No, your uniqueness, like you said, you can express your uniqueness online, right?
mm-hmm.
Of maybe like this picture here is you got what? You got some tunes over here, smiley faces. You got cheers. You can just show and express yourself,
Mm-hmm. I
right?
know a lot of people will put their art out there, or if you take a really cool picture or you have something you're really passionate about, you can find a community online that also shares that passion. So those are a lot of the positives. But coach, let's talk about how it might impact ourselves negatively. So why would it be a bad thing to be spending time on digital media?
Yes. Well, you can be stressed, right? Which I said with my son. He plays the game. He's happy when he's winning, and when he's losing, he just goes into rage. And I know a lot of you kids do that because I have a lot of kids that I coach, and I hear them. They're all friends. They're all on the game, and then when they're losing, they're talking crazy. They're stressed out. They're
Mm-hmm.
unfriending people. And not only that, maybe on Instagram, on Snapchat, Facebook as well. People unfriend people all the time just because they're stressed out. Maybe they don't like things people are posting.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they're sending things they shouldn't be sending, so it can really get stressed out.
Well, I also think there's just so much out there, you'll never actually have enough time to see it all, right?
Yeah.
And so that can be stressful. Or you might have people that are saying unkind words online that can make
Mm-hmm.
you stressed out. Oh, you might feel insecure, right? So there might be someone who posts a picture, like it makes you think that their life is perfect. And
Mm-hmm.
very rarely is their life perfect. They just know how to take a good picture, right?
Or you can see in the picture alone, it looks like this person has muscles and this person is skinny, but it's a guy and
Mm-hmm.
it's a girl. So you may see a photo of someone that you like, oh man, well, I thought that I look good, but maybe that person looks better. So you might feel insecure about yourself.
Mm-hmm. And something I always tell myself, because I'll see people online, comparison is the thief of joy, that you don't know where they are on their path of life. And it might be they're a little further on than you are. So it's very difficult to compare people that you don't even know, right? So don't focus on the differences and just focus on living the best life that you can right now, because there might be a lot different between you and that person online. You might feel bummed, right? There might be bad news out there,
Yes.
or people might be saying unkind words, and then also you might feel tired because remember what I said: 9 hours a day. A lot of teens are spending their time online, so they might be staying up till 2 a.m. and then they have to get up at 7 o'clock to go to school. That's only like 5 hours of sleep, and I know the recommended amount for teens is like 10 hours, and so they're not going to be able to give their best at school or in their other activities because they spend so much time online. So I want to talk to you about this right here. So I know you might not want to participate, but I think it's a very important activity. So use these skills that you've learned in school of reading graphs and being able to make inferences about this information. So if you look at this graph, you might notice on the y-axis right here, these are the different type of media, right? And so different media can include Netflix, you could be even your phone or YouTube, Safari, spending time on like web browsers, Snapchat, and even things as like boring as settings are on here even. And so what you'll notice is the average number of minutes per day, that's on the x-axis here. So all these smiley faces are the average number of minutes that a person with good mental health who is happy is spending online, and then these sad faces are the unhappy users. So if we look at one example, if we're looking at Netflix, and I know a lot of people that watch Netflix, right? And so the amount that a happy user is spending is less than 40 minutes. So that might just be one episode from a series, maybe right before bed. And what do you guys notice over here? An unhappy user is spending up to 80 minutes. So that's like an hour and a half almost on Netflix, right? So why do you think that is, Coach? Why do you think less can be more in these circumstances, that maybe spending too much time on these apps would have a bad effect on someone's mental health? Why do you think that is?
Well, less could be more is because if they're doing less, then they won't, fall into that trap of eventually, um, the word here, eventually, if the more they do, the more frustrated they can be, right? So less time on that could actually benefit their balance.
Right. I would say I know a lot of people, um, if they're spending all day on Netflix, it seems like the balance isn't there. Maybe they're trying to fill their day because they don't know what else to do with their day.
Right.
So they're not aware of the opportunities there are in their community, or maybe they don't feel like they have enough connections with friends, right? And so instead of doing other activities that are available to them, they're spending more time online.
Right.
And so if you notice, it kind of trends around here for most of these apps, the more time you spend on them, the unhappier you
Right.
are,
More
which is an
frustrated.
interesting point that this graphic makes. All right. So next, Coach, let's talk. So we've already talked about what stands out, right? So the more time that you're spending on these apps, the more
More
unlikely you're
frustrated.
going to be frustrated or unhappy.
Yeah.
So, Coach, let's talk about what media balance is then. We've been
Right.
talking about this for a little while with this presentation.
Pretty much been talking about it, so we pretty much give you this vocab word. Media balance is using media in a way that feels healthy and balanced with other life activities such as school, friends, certain hobbies, right? But establishing a daily routine for using favorite media, right? So have a routine. Like if you're gonna be on Snapchat, maybe putting together, at these certain times I'm gonna use it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So having that balance of that.
So instead of while you're working on homework, don't pick up your phone every time you get a Snapchat, but maybe when you get done with your English homework, you can reward yourself with checking Snapchat instead of checking every 2 minutes. Because we know you can get a lot of snaps in like 5 minutes, right? And
Right.
so it's really going to take away from your productivity to be taking the time to check your apps if you're not going to focus on that one subject, right? And so
Yeah.
using media in a way that feels healthy and in balance, right? And so people want to enjoy the balance and the benefit of social media without the negative effects. So I think there is kind of a sweet spot
Yeah.
where you are spending time online, but it isn't going to be detrimental or negative to your quality of life. And so we also want to talk about what a guideline is. So if you're setting a criteria or piece of advice for how to do something, so what Coach was saying, like making a guideline for your life, like, oh, I'm only going to check Snapchat after I finished one subject of homework, and then I'll move on to math homework. Or it could be, I'm only going to check Snapchat after 8 p.m., or I'm only going to go on Instagram during lunch. So those sorts of limiting, so it does feel like you're limiting, but as you get older, you have to take more responsibility about how you spend your time. But eventually, the more you do it, it's going to just be natural and it's going to be a habit and you won't even have to think about it. And so, something that we want you to do and that we're going to attach to your Google Classroom is this worksheet here, which is a template for you to start examining what your media use looks like. And so, how much time you're using it, what time of day you're using it, and how it makes you feel. So, you see that example there, a group text with your friends about your fantasy football team. So, you would be putting in how you use media and then how it makes you feel. And so, you are going to be able to think about what you're spending your time doing and is it making your life better or not. And then after that, you can start making those guidelines to help get that balance that we want you to have.
Yeah, it's a really cool activity. I know in the classrooms, when we actually used to go in class, we would do it. We actually would make a bar graph and we fill up and see how much time we actually spent on
Mm-hmm.
it. And some kids would be
Right.
like, "Wow, I can't believe I spend 15 hours a day on
Right.
digital
And we
media."
don't even realize it because it's just how we always are, right? But once we actually like look inward
Yeah.
and think about it, you might be surprised how much time you spend doing certain activities. And so we want to end this activity real quick with you. We just want you to know that everyone's balance is different, but we want you to find your balance because we want you to live the best life that you can live. And so that means that you are wisely using digital media and doing it in a way that's going to enhance your life, not affect it negatively. So life is definitely about balance, but we hope that you have enjoyed this presentation and that we challenge you to go after that digital balance and so that you can have an impactful life.
Right. And I want you guys to remember that digital media can get us caught up, right? And we can be on there so long. We can be on there for hours and hours and hours. But at the end of the day, we want to keep our balance. We want to keep our balance. We want to stay healthy mentally and physically. We can start. I can even end it with when you